You could have been at Johns Hopkins with me. You could have been eating quality barbecue. Because Mr. Hammond, who watches our show, says, "Oh, JB's always talking about the barbecue. Always talking about the barbecue, Frank. When you're done with the game, come see me." The man comes up. His son graduated off, I think, when Margraf was still coach back when.
Okay.
Comes back and still cooks for everybody at the Blue Jay Bar tailgate.
Quality guy right there.
Absolutely. And, I mean, we'll show you the stuff he had for me. So, I mean, perfect spice on that barbecue sauce. You would have loved it, man. Yep. We both would have paid the next day, as I have pretty much today. But, 49 and 50, whatever you are now. Yeah, okay.
Something.
Yeah, but the long story short is that Blue Jay Bar was in effect, even at a unusual location on the top of the parking deck on Saturday. As I took my mac and cheese to go watch the UWRF game against Wheaton, somebody hands off a bowl of chicken fried rice to me because
you need that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, because
it's part of the whole indoctrination of being part of the
experience. Okay.
Yep. And at the time, I didn't think I'd actually get to see Johns Hopkins again. But then I talked to Pat Coleman. I said, "Pat, which game are you doing?" Because I usually give him the first dibs with seniority. And he said, "I'm doing North Central." And I said, "Well, then I'm going to do River Falls, Johns Hopkins, and I'm going to take my first ever trip to Minnesota on Saturday."
Oh, yeah.
And don't you know I'll be out there?
Don't you know? You betcha. Okay.
So I get to drive over to River Falls and see that. And it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Well, at least it won't be below zero. It sounds like the temperatures this weekend will actually warm up to a balmy 40. Right now here in New York, it feels like 6 degrees, which is kind of what it was like with some of these games. And, yes, I could have been in Baltimore, but I had some family matters to attend to, and we did the Hamilton thing, dinner out, the whole thing here with my wife and some other friends and family. So it's been a fun time, and appreciate you putting us up once again here at your spot here in New York. And unfortunately, I think not the best weekend of games from a competitive aspect.
It happens.
I kept tabs while I was being dragged around the Upper East Side carrying shopping bags and whatnot.
We do it well.
Yeah. But yeah, I was kind of hoping for a little more action, a little more competitiveness. Didn't see that. We'll see if we get it in the semifinals. But here we are, down to the Final Four.
Well, people are wondering probably what do we mean by the 21-67 thing? Well, 3 games had scores of 21. Only one of them happened to have a winner in it.
Yeah,
we'll talk about which one that is in a minute. And then if you look at the River Falls Wheaton game, the total score, one of them had 21, the other one had 46. That's 6-7. 6-7.
You get it?
Yep. That's to our friend Nate Milne, who's a big 6-7 fan out there over at Muhlenberg.
You have kids that age that were definitely into that whole scene, so it makes sense.
But now let's talk about 1-8 as in our season number.
Yes.
And the 5th round is coming up, but the 4th round is what we just finished here, the quarterfinals. This is season 18 of In the Huddle. So we see on the screen the different semifinal pairings that we've got. On the left side, you've got obviously River Falls hosting Johns Hopkins. On the right side, you've got John Carroll traveling over to North Central. And, it would become interesting, JB, when you really look at it. The Logan Hansons of the world are saying suddenly that River Falls is the favorite, against North Central.
Yeah, he's predicting that they're going to beat North Central for the championship, which is pretty, what-y at this stage but hey,
Well, let me tell you something. When we do analysis, sometimes the AI stuff helps us out to understand a little bit better what's going on.
Yeah.
More or less, when I was piecing apart, let's say, River Falls in their game versus Johns Hopkins in their game.
Right.
It's not number of plays necessarily. It's the number of entries for plays in the play-by-play.
Okay.
River Falls had 245. Johns Hopkins in their game, and this is combined between the two teams, was 185. That's 30 to 40% greater number of play entries.
Jeez.
Because of the way that suite of offense works. The Top Gun offense is not just Top Gun offense. It's something else going on there. It's a little bit crazy, got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The way these numbers pan out. Take your 30,000-foot view for now, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how this all plays out. We've got crunch time coming up with the 4 quarterfinal games, and then I think we'll take a deeper look at what to expect on Saturday. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think, and I may have seen this on a tweet from Keith McMillan, but it's a good reminder that a lot of times when we get to this stage in the playoffs, the offensive and defensive line play really makes a difference. And I think even though we saw some sloppy games and some games that sort of had wonky first quarters, teams like the North Centrals, teams like John Carroll, they used their defenses to kind of carry them, as well as just going back to the run. Like North Central really leaned in on the run game, and now we have apparently this new guy, Donovan McNeil, who I haven't really heard his name called much this season.
You did Saturday.
Yeah, you did, for about 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. More on him in a little while. But, that power run game, the big offensive line of the Cardinals, and, when you look at teams, also like River Falls, they can put up the points. Johns Hopkins did the same thing. They leaned into their offensive line. The defensive line caused a lot of trouble. So I think it's going to come down to in this next round how these lines in the trenches sort of line up, and we'll see what happens.
Coming up in Crunch Time, you're going to see video from the JT Zone, who's somebody that we've met through our Discord server, actually. Very talented. And so we get some good, field level video from him that we'll be using for this. And thanks to our friends at Barry for granting his press pass for that. But you got my video, his video, and then obviously the 2 broadcast videos here coming up in Crunch Time. A lot of good stuff coming up. But, I'm just thinking here, the further west game is getting the earlier time slot, even though it's in the same time zone.
Yeah.
We are looking at, as we showed you in that semifinal slide, a 1 o'clock Eastern time start at River Falls, which, again, is the western side of Wisconsin, just about on the border with Minnesota. Okay. And the Eastern more game, all the way to the Chicagoland area, is starting at 4:30 Eastern Time, 3:30 Central. Kind of an interesting decision by the NCAA. I'm wondering how they even arrived at that.
You got me, other than maybe North Central has a better well-lit stadium. Maybe they have better stadium lights. Because, since I've been here in New York, the sun's been setting about 4:30.
Yeah, really.
And so I assume in the Midwest, it's probably the same thing, but obviously, the different time zone. The second half of that game will definitely be in the dark and under the lights. So maybe it had something to do with the stadium setup with the lights. I'm not sure. I don't remember seeing a night game at River Falls. I know the WIAC does have some Friday night games, but I don't remember. Someone will probably on Twitter say, "Oh yeah, there was a time back in 2000, whatever." But
back at St. Olaf days,
that's something, But anyway, that's the only thing that I can think of, other than maybe as like the highest remaining seed. Theoretically, maybe they called Coach Spencer and said, "Do you guys want to go first or second?" And he said, We'll go second.
Maybe his flights for Johns Hopkins.
Yeah, that could be it too. Although they'll probably fly up on the Saturday before, I would assume, and maybe practice.
You mean Friday before?
Yeah, the Friday before next Saturday. Practice maybe at like the University of Chicago or who knows? Maybe the Bears will let him practice,
or one of the other many Wisconsin schools.
Exactly. So we'll have to wait and see there. But never really know what's going on with the NCAA. We just report on it and just kind of go from there.
Well, I did love the people who are like, oh, well, they've got the equal seating number, so they're going to put it in a neutral site. And did you really think that the NCAA was going to pay for neutral site games in the semifinals, folks? I mean, come on. We love all of our fans and viewers and everything else, but sometimes we've taught you better than this, okay, over these years. Yeah. They're not paying for another game like that. When the whole Framingham State versus LaGrange situation was panning out, they were very scared they were going to have to pay for a game somewhere like that, but they got away with that one. So don't fool yourself. Don't overthink this process. Home sites until the Stag Bowl. That's the way it works pretty much until the end. Well, I've got some script here. I've got some scoreboards here. Yeah, exactly. I think it's time.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do the quarterfinal round in week number 15 of the 2025 Division III college football season. This is Crunch Time. We will start in the so-called Mount Union quadrant here for this bracket as John Carroll takes on Barry. Early in the first, it's a 3rd and 8 play for John Carroll, but Nick Sumdenfelter is sacked for an 8-yard loss, and eventually that would force a punt, but Barry did go 3 and out, so back to John Carroll. We'll go second quarter, 13:38 remaining, and here's Quincy Newsome with the 1-yard touchdown run. 7-0, John Carroll leads his game. Then 10:40 left in the second quarter. Here's Christian Lewis getting intercepted by Jacob Huffnagel, and we're going to see a lot of these types of situations, but that thwarted a real scoring opportunity. Following the interception further up the field, JCU got the ball back with about 5:45 left in the half, and here is Carroll's Cohen Climate getting a 4-yard touchdown pass to Sumdenfelter. The 8-play drive leads to a 14-0 score, he said, in favor of John Carroll. Third quarter, here's Barry, 4th and 11 with 12:50 left, and it's a punt muff by John Carroll, so it's recovered by Barry's Will Johnson. Next play, though, that opportunity goes away as Andrew Hunter's complete, but ultimately fumbled by Kamari Smith, and Joe Timmons recovers the ball. So John Carroll in business. We're going to see, though, later on, after John Carroll couldn't do anything really with it, here's Christian Lewis getting intercepted by Lamar Thomas. So really ball control issues for both teams in this game. JCU would punt. Barry couldn't take advantage. Sloppy offensive play made it a scoreless third. Fourth quarter, 13:27 remaining. Kenneth Rawls, a 7-yard touchdown pass from Nick Sumdenfelter, makes it a 21-0 John Carroll lead. We'll advance here in the fourth quarter, 8:48 remaining. Nate Lyons, a 6-yard touchdown pass from Andrew Hunter, makes it 21-6. Barry would get the ball back and needed a miracle. They would score after this big catch to make it 21-13, but they need an onside kick. And we're going to watch this a couple different ways here, folks. The question was, who touched the ball first? Was it John Carroll? Was it Barry touching it early? I can't tell for the life of me. It was close, JB.
Yeah, from what I could tell, it looks like the Barry player makes contact with number 0, who would have been the receiver of the football, and had he touched the ball first, then maybe the change of possession could have happened, but he got there a little bit early. Ball didn't hit the John Carroll guy. That ends that question. That's how I saw it anyway.
It was close for sure, but anyway, John Carroll does get the ball, and here's the final kneel down. They win the game 21-13. John Carroll defense forced 7 turnovers, 5 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles and recoveries. Andrew Hunter from Barry, 2 passing touchdowns. Sumdenfelter, 20 for 28, 256 yards, 2 passing touchdowns on the day. Overall, let's talk about the game, though. Sumdenfelter, 20 for 28, it's pretty efficient still, but it didn't feel like there was that efficiency because of that game flow just being so inconsistent throughout it.
Yeah, and like I said in the prior show, I really think that Barry's defense did kind of limit the run game. They usually take away something, and so obviously it kind of fell on the Blue Streaks offense for passing game, try to move the ball. But like you said, it was a little bit of a sloppy game. I don't know if it's like because it's the first time these teams have played each other, or just the defensive styles that they're so good at causing turnovers. One of the players that we'll talk about later for John Carroll, their punter, pinned Barry inside their 20-yard line 5 times in that game. So the Vikings always had a long field. And even though it was a 21-13 final, it was really, it was 21-13 up until about 5 or 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. The contest was never really in doubt, but John Carroll couldn't really have that sort of explosive offensive performance because I think, to Barry's credit, their defense is good enough to kind of slow teams down and make them one-dimensional.
Let's move on to the lower left, the North Central quadrant, as Bethel visited North Central. We'll go in the first NCC drive, 4th and 2 from the Bethel 34, and Donovan McNeil is in and rushes for 0 yards as a turnover on downs at that point, but Bethel would have to punt back. So we'll go 2:21 for left in the first quarter. Donovan McNeil, a 1-yard run. It's a touchdown after a 17-play, 81-yard drive that took 9 minutes off the clock. 7-0 at that point, North Central leads. North Central will get the ball back before the end of the first quarter, but they get to the Bethel 35, and you'll see here, first play of the second quarter, it's a field goal attempt, no good from 52 yards. Aiden Ellison, ball's just, I think, so hard from the cold,
Like kicking a rock.
that it dropped like a rock at the end. But Bethel would have a miscue of their own as Cooper Drews are rushed, and the 8-yard loss here. It's a fumble, recovered by Matt Janiak, and so North Central would have to punt, and Bethel regrouped. You'll see here it's Albert Rendell, the semifinals for the Glardy Trophy, getting a 4-yard touchdown pass from Cooper Drews to make it 7 apiece after that 12-play drive for them. North Central responds, 3:10 left in the second quarter. Donovan McNeil, a 33-yard touchdown run, making it 14-7 North Central at that point. Bethel had a last chance to tie before halftime. We'll see here with a minute 18 left, 4th and 2 from the North Central 31. Cooper Drews complete to Rendell, and so that's a first down for that 3-yard gain. Then we'll go to 20 seconds remaining in the second quarter, and we talked about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Rendell catches the ball, gets maybe to the 8, maybe not, but ultimately it's taken away by the offensive lineman. He runs in for the touchdown. They don't know what to do as referees. They review it. They review possibly the wrong thing.
Heisman moment spoiled.
Yeah, but, the question also is, did they rough the passer there?
Right.
Did they stop the forward progress? Did they review forward progress when they shouldn't have? This is a mess of a play. The long story short is that Bethel got the ball back to maybe do something with it here at the end of the first half. And so we'll go 13 seconds left, 1st and goal from the 8. Cooper Drews passes to Rendell, 7-yard gain to the 1-yard line. North Central takes a timeout with 8 seconds left, 2nd and goal from the 1, and Cooper Drews tries to rush, no gain and no timeouts. The clock expires. 14-7 is the halftime score. After halftime, Bethel had the possession but would punt, leading to more McNeil magic as it's 1st and goal from the 19-yard line. McNeil rushes for 14 yards to the Bethel 5-yard line. And then later on, 11:59 left, third quarter, it's Jordan Williams getting a 5-yard touchdown run, 21-7, North Central leads. A Bethel punt will lead to a long North Central drive again, 5:51 left in the third quarter. Zeb Rashid gets a 3-yard touchdown run, and North Central's on a roll here, 28-7. And then Donovan McNeil, the aforementioned, gets a 3-yard touchdown run with 13:31 left, fourth quarter, 35-7 at that point. Bethel would try to make it close. 35-21 was the final score in favor of North Central. They led 14-7 at the half. As you saw, Cooper Drews from Bethel, 24 for 43, 260 yards, 2 passing touchdowns and an interception. Donovan McNeil, though, 25 rushes, 144 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. What's going on here? I mean, you think about all the running backs. Donovan McNeil was not one of them that I've been talking about this season in crunch times. So what's going on here for North Central?
I think it's probably the next man up mentality in a situation where every team at this stage, we're week 15 or whatever it is, and teams are just trying to put together the best squads they can. And obviously a team like North Central is going to have guys who are second, third string that are probably just as good, if not better, than most starters in the country. So Donovan McNeil is making the most of his opportunity. And going back to the end of the first half, Frank, I guess you could say, what if Bethel scored and it was 14-14 at the half? Honestly, given what you saw in the second half with the adjustments, both defensively and offensively by North Central, this game was probably going to go their way no matter what. But that was a pretty messy, not a great look or play call. Hopefully that ref staff isn't going to be the one that's going to be doing the next game or maybe the Stag Bowl. Sorry, guys. It's just not the best look.
You're going to flame that Twitter for that one.
Well, yeah, right. Exactly. But, at the end of the day, Bethel had, coulda, woulda, coulda, maybe. But I think when you saw it was like 35-7 there. The second half was just all NCC, and they just dominated the line of scrimmage, and that's pretty much it.
Upper right time. It's going to be this time the Wartburg quadrant, quote unquote, Wheaton at River Falls. First quarter, 11:58 remaining in it. It's Blake Rohrer getting an 11-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Blaha, and that hot starting River Falls team does it again, up 7-0 at that point. Wheaton then has a 4th and 26, so they try a field goal from 46 yards out, but Mateo Jesh is no good. So still 7-0 River Falls. We'll advance to 5:37 left in the first quarter, though. 4th and 1. Caleb Blaha gets a 1-yard loss, turnover on down. So Wheaton's defense does stand up to them early. 13:29 left, second quarter. Mark Furcucci, a 1-yard touchdown run. It's 7 apiece at that point after a 14-play drive. I mean, what happened there?
Yeah. Faster time, guys.
Yeah, fast moving, not so much. Second quarter, though, 8:56 remaining. Here's Austin Rush at 11-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Blaha, 14-7 at that point on the 9-play drive. Wheaton had a chance to respond, but 4th and 14 from the River Falls 30-yard line. They only get 11 yards on it as Furcucci didn't really throw to the sticks on that one.
Yeah.
And so it's a turnover on downs there for Wheaton. 37 seconds left in the second quarter. Trevor Asher for River Falls extends it to a 2-possession lead with a 1-yard touchdown run, 20-7 at that point. We'll go past halftime to 13:03 left third quarter. Caleb Titherington, a 44-yard touchdown pass from Mark Furcucci makes this interesting. 20-14. Wheaton trailing at that point, but just by 6 points. About 4 minutes later, make it 3.5 minutes later. Trevor Asher, a 21-yard touchdown run, ends a 10-play drive for River Falls to make it 26-14 as they chase that 2-point conversion and missed it there. So, 12-point game. 4:01 left third quarter. Jake Hilton, though, gets a 71-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Blaha, wide open in stride. 33-14 is the lead at that point, and everybody thought it was going great for River Falls until this 4th and 14 play from their own 17, and it's a botched punt snap all the way back, and they're lucky this was not scored by Wheaton as a touchdown immediately, but it's at the 1-yard line, and so we'll go one play or so later. The first play of the fourth quarter, actually. Matt Kreider, a 1-yard touchdown run, 33-21 at that point. So Wheaton back within 12, but Trevor Asher says, not so fast, my friend. 2 minutes later, a 7-yard touchdown run makes it 40-21, and that would be pretty much it. 46-21, the final score. Mark Furcucci, 27 for 53, 331 yards, 1 passing touchdown, but 2 interceptions. Blaha, 32 for 50, 407 yards, 4 passing touchdowns on the day. I put my ballot in, and you put your ballot in. I will say to folks that Caleb Blaha appeared on both of our ballots. We're not going to tell you where or how.
Yep.
We ranked the top 3. That's all we're going to say here. He's a special guy. He was a guest on our show last Friday. Great talking with him. But, JB, that speed, efficiency, it seems to knock teams onto their backs of their feet, basically. Some of them can respond from time to time, but not for 4 quarters. And that's going to be the key here as they face a Johns Hopkins team that I think is used to controlling the pace of a game. Something's got to give here in that respect. But, can River Falls win a game they don't control the pace in, I wonder?
Well, maybe. I mean, the one thing about this highlights package that I think fans should pay attention to is the running back Asher, because everyone talks about Blaha. I mean, he obviously made a great impression on all the Ghilardi voters with 60+% completion percentage and 400 yards and 4 passing touchdowns on the last weekend that people can get their votes in. I mean, that's very impressive, and the 71-yard touchdown bomb, stuff like that, is going to get attention. But to me, it's the little plays like Asher and some of the defensive plays that they made in this one that really made the difference. So yeah, I think for Hopkins, it's sort of pick your poison. You don't want to get caught with the 70-yard or touchdown, but at the same time, you have to also be able to play up front and not let their big offensive line and the steady, rushing attack of Asher kind of wear them down. So it's going to be a tough day for them. Fortunately, it looks like they're not going to be playing in sub-zero temperatures. It will be kind of similar to what the weather is like in Maryland now, probably. So that will be helpful. And Bay Harvey, with his legs and arm, can definitely take up some time on the clock. And I think that's really what they have to do, is try to set the tone for this one early. Schroeder's going to need to have a good game. They're going to need to get Cole Crotty involved. This is going to be two amazingly talented offensive and defensive teams playing in this next round, and I think we should probably talk about the other one, since we've already covered the Falcons pretty well.
Well, you'll throw that on the ground, and I'll tell people about the Christopher Newport quadrant, again, quote-unquote, Susquehanna at Johns Hopkins, the game I attended. 8:51 left first quarter. Robbie Enright gets a 28-yard touchdown pass from Cole Crotty. Because of the pitch back to Cole. He can throw too, folks. 7-0. Yes, it is. It's Johns Hopkins leading. 6 minutes later, Susquehanna's Dominic Bourgeois gets a 35-yard field goal to cap the 11-play drive. It's 7-3. Johns Hopkins leading by 4 at that point. We went back and forth for a little bit. 9:02 left second quarter, though, and it's Earl getting strip sacked for Susquehanna by Graham Hodge. It's recovered by Jackson Smith, and that's a big play. Also, there was a personal foul added onto it, so put him in the red zone right away. So Johns Hopkins ready to score, and they did with a Bay Harvey 1-yard touchdown run with 5:52 remaining in the first half. 14-3 at that point. They would get the ball back again. 3 minutes later, it's Jeff Schroeder, a 39-yard touchdown run. Really nobody there to tackle him, man. Maybe they got a little bit of a piece of him halfway down, but that's about it. 20-3, to score for Johns Hopkins. We'll go to the third quarter. Midway through it, Robbie Enright gets a 43-yard touchdown pass from Bay Harvey. 27-3, so suddenly Bay Harvey's passing game was lighting up in the second half.
Yeah.
And then we'll go third quarter, 3:23 remaining. Rashawn Lamons trying to bring Susquehanna back here with this 23-yard touchdown run. On the sideline, I was on that sideline. He was very active, trying to talk to his team, get them back here. 27-10 at that point. But Bay Harvey says not so fast. 9:21 left fourth quarter. It's his 7-yard touchdown run that pretty much seals the deal. 33-10 at that point. 40-10 final score. Rashawn Lamons with that one rushing touchdown you saw, but Bay Harvey, 214 total yards, 2 passing, 2 rushing touchdowns. We know that Lamons was injured. He revealed that it's more or less an MCL strain at the very least, is what Coach Bergovich told me later on.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, he was definitely injured, but still played a lot of snaps for that fact. So kudos to him for Daddy's team spirit. Yep. But at the same time, Josh Earl, it just didn't seem to have the receiving core he needed at certain points in this postseason, and we'll see what happens. Does he come back next year? He's a redshirt junior, so he could come back. We'll see. Rashawn Lamons, obviously a sophomore that some people thought might go into the portal last year. Does he stay with Susquehanna after these injuries and everything else? A lot of questions for Susquehanna coming up here. But if they can keep that offense together and build off of it, this could be a semifinal team again next year. Even though last year's semifinals, this year quarterfinals. Hopkins semifinals last year, semifinals again this year. See a pattern forming somewhere here, folks? I sure do.
Yeah, no, obviously these two teams have become, kind of standard bearers in Region 2 and the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, whatever you want to call it. Susquehanna definitely has an opportunity to be back. I think they really missed the production of some of their wide receivers that they lost to graduation and after the 24 season. And Lamons not being 100% is obviously not the same guy that we saw in last year's playoff run, scoring all those touchdowns against St. John's and everything else that he did. But if this team can kind of coalesce, add a few different weapons here and there, they can continue this role that they're on, and they still are kind of the heads and shoulders above anyone else in the landmark, which gives them an opportunity to know that they have a very good shot at making the playoffs. And they challenged themselves with a tougher schedule this year. They fell down a couple times and kind of learned the hard way, but they picked themselves back up, and to wrap up the season the way they did, I think shows a lot of heart from this program and something they can build from.
La chutzpah, as they say.
Yes.
And with that big word of sorts, I'm going to say that is crunch time for week number 15, the quarterfinals of the Division III college football season of 2025. JB, it is time for MVPs at this point, and you seem to pick out a name that we've been talking about a little bit for your offensive MVP.
Yeah.
Again, that kind of out of nowhere mentality, maybe not to him and his team, but to the rest of the country. Donovan McNeil, tell us about him.
Yeah, and this week definitely was interesting how we had some underclassmen really make some big plays, and this guy was one of them. I mean, it's only a sophomore. The 25 carries for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns were a big reason for the Cardinals to overcome the challenges that they were seeing with Bethel after a very close first half, and it was really some of McNeil's runs and grinding out the clock and all that really helped open up the offense. This was a weekend where Garrett Wilson, I don't know if it was the cold or the Bethel secondary or what, but he wasn't putting up as many big passing numbers as we've seen. And Thomas Skokna, had some plays, but he wasn't as big a factor this weekend than he's been in other games. So, yeah, they leaned in on this young sophomore, and he really performed well. And this could be a name that we could be calling for another week or two, depending on how things shake out.
They have a freshman for your defensive player.
Yeah, Taylor Sussner led the Riverhawks defense in tackles, and he had the Riverhawks. The River Falls Falcon. Yeah, we were just talking about Susquehanna, so I've got the Riverhawks on the brain, but no, the River Falls Falcons defense was led by Taylor, who also had 3 tackles for loss, and he forced a fumble. Pretty impressive play for a guy who's only a freshman. But when I saw his name at the top of the list there, I was like, I've heard it before in our Crunchtime thing. This is a guy who is probably maybe a Division I caliber walk-on type of candidate, but goes to a school like River Falls, gets the chance to start, and is really performing at like an all-region level. Maybe even All-American, depending on how things shake out when it's all said and done. But really impressive performance for him. And then last but not least, I alluded to him earlier, Owen Schukert, I think is how you say his name, who's a senior punter for John Carroll. I think a big problem that Barry had was that they were constantly looking at 80-plus yards of field every time they played offense, because he had 6 punts, 5 of them he dropped within inside the 20-yard line, really just, pinpoint accuracy. That's what you want from your punter. And since I didn't really see any 50-yard field goals to win ball games or kickoff returns and all this kind of stuff, field position football and setting up your defense with a long field to defend is great. So that's why Owen gets my special teams MVP this weekend.
You were 4-0. I was 4-0. Cat was 4-0 for that matter.
Everybody was 4-0, I think. Everyone predicted chalk across the board. And that's kind of why I think this weekend feels like a little bit of a letdown. When everybody gets every pick right, I guess it's like, okay, well, the best teams won, which is true, and that's okay. But if you're looking for a little excitement, there's no upsets here. It's just kind of...
I think Greg actually got the Susquehanna game wrong.
Okay. Well, maybe he took the flyer this weekend. I did that once, and you see how that goes.
So let's look at the lineup here before we move too far afield. And we're looking at on the first game, Johns Hopkins at River Falls. The travel game here, really the bigger travel of the two. What do you think here? I mean, you saw how Hopkins took on Mount Union without Bay Harvey last year.
Yeah.
You see this River Falls team clicking the way they are. How do you face this if you're Johns Hopkins? Because to a degree, it felt like they played house money games last year against Mount Union. It almost made it work because they have the parts. when the things are going right, to really cash in on those things. James Ranello, for as good as he was, he's no Babe Harvey.
No.
And yet it was really that close.
Yeah.
Now, how do you parlay that into a victory against River Falls possibly? What does River Falls have to do to avoid a letdown at home?
Yeah, well, I mean, River Falls is going to want to play a game like the one we saw between Hopkins and Mount Union last year. That was a shootout. And that's a shootout is a game that the Falcons from River Falls can win. Hopkins can slow things down and use their defensive line to give Blaha some trouble. They're going to have to keep Asher bottled up, but also look out for the long passes deep. So I think Hopkins needs to try to slow down, shorten the game, and force the Falcons into not being able to do all those quick play calls and the hurry up offensive style that they do. They're going to need to create some mismatches and havoc up front, maybe sack Blaha a couple of times, rattle his confidence a little bit so that they don't score a couple of quick touchdowns and all of a sudden Hopkins is like, okay, well, we got to throw our game plan out the window and just start chucking it up to Crotty and hope that he can break some long touchdown runs.
I wonder, defensive substitution rules are interesting. I wonder if you try to frustrate the offense of River Falls by doing late substitutions that would force delay of a snap type of situation.
Maybe.
Yeah. Things like that. This is where Hopkins is very good at coming up with, game plans. They're smart guys at Hopkins, okay? It's Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
And their coaching staff reflects that at all times. But things that frustrate that high voltage, high paced offense. You've got to think that they're going to try to come up with something to take control of that tenor of game. Because again, we said it earlier, something's got to give because you've got two teams that are used to controlling it. But I think River Falls has a better opportunity to control that tenor in a game like this.
Yeah.
And that could really frustrate Hopkins. So going in, they need to figure out how to frustrate back on that, and it's not easy. And also not to let them score within the first 3 minutes or 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think, for Hopkins, they're going to have to figure out ways to negate the offensive line size advantage that the Falcons have. Maybe they do that by certain stunt calls, different blitz packages to try to slip guys in through, create some confusion with some late shifts on the defensive line so that the offensive players can't get as strong a push as they're used to, or create certain looks that make it less obvious who's coming, that type of thing. But you don't want to necessarily blitz this offense too much because that means you have to play man-to-man, and that can put yourself on an island unless you've got some corners that are real locked down. And Hopkins does have some good defensive backs, but the way that this River Falls offense can score so quickly, and then you've got a quarterback like Blaha back there who can just break one off and run 1-2. A lot of things you got to worry about as a defensive coordinator for Hopkins.
I will say toward the end of the game yesterday, we're doing this on Sunday, Drew Chair,
sharing of the board.
He got knocked over, so somebody actually did what I said they couldn't do, knocked him over.
Okay.
And I went over to
come on, Drew.
Yeah, well, I went to the trainer's table. He looked like he was in a full Muay Thai fight type of situation, MMA type fight. He was bloody from nose to face. Oh, it was crazy, actually.
Yeah, if you get a little gash on your forehead, it'll bleed like crazy. So, or maybe he got it on his nose.
I think there was a nose thing,
yeah that'll do it too.
Drew looked like he was full on done with the battle.
Yeah,
he was.
A great defensive line for Susquehanna. I know that it sounded like Limantor was out, didn't play, which was a good thing for Hopkins. But yeah, they're gonna have to expect a similar, a very aggressive type of defensive game from UWRF too. So more of the same coming up. But I'm glad that Drew it was okay.
Hats off Brian Layton for Susquehanna. Such a terrific career, such a good guy. Yeah. His dad came over, introduced himself. He wanted to thank us for the interview we did with them early in the season.
Cool.
And he said, he was great. Absolutely, great guy. who had a passion to be everything he could be for that team because of the family they formed for him.
Yeah.
And, it was sad on that hand, to have to talk with those guys after the game that they lost.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to say to them how proud you are of a team that just kind of came out of nowhere after their trips out of the starting gate for 2 years in the playoffs. You get to the semifinals and the quarterfinals. Hey, hats off to Coach Perkovich and his guys, the seniors of that class especially. So we'll see where that goes for them. North Central, John Carroll. Concerned at all about how John Carroll's offense played in this Berry game? Because 2 straight weeks we've looked at something here. The offense just wasn't as potent as they felt like they were prior to these last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They only scored 10 points in double overtime situations for the Mount Union game. Not saying that, that's a horrible thing against Mount Union, but then 21 and basically shut out for most of the second half. They had the touchdown at the beginning of the fourth quarter, but the third quarter was a disaster for both teams. Yeah. And the rest of the fourth quarter, they really couldn't get anything going anyway. Their defense is proving to be who we think they are. Mm-hmm. That offense has to still score points, especially against the North Central.
Yeah.
Are you concerned?
Yeah, I am. And although I have no proof, there could be some injuries to certain offensive players that are restricting certain movements, play calls, is the general ability to be a little more comfortable in the pocket or otherwise. And 21 points is not going to be enough to beat North Central by any stretch.
2 more touchdowns at the minimum.
Yeah. So they need to figure out a way to open things up, like you said, and look for opportunities. I mean, clearly the even though it was a little too late, there is some film out there that Wisconsin lacrosse showed that they can get certain receivers open and get behind some of the defensive players. So I would probably be looking at that and looking at ways to create matchups so that my top receiver has some opportunities to make some catches, because you're going to need to score probably 4 or 5 touchdowns that you have a chance against the defending champs.
So we'll look back here one more time as we close out with the show, and you'll see again the pairings, and we're going to talk a lot more about them on Friday's show, so make sure you join us. Appreciate you joining us as always here for JB in New York City. It's Frank, and we will see you on Friday. It's time for the semifinals, folks.